Everybody, this is Emma Laura Brown. In case you couldn't tell, in this video I'm going to talk with you about how to find bargain flights to France. So the first place that I always really like to check is this google.com/flights, and I found this to be the best place to find and track flights, not just to France, but just pretty much everywhere. And so what I typically will do, so I live in Salt Lake City, so I'll put in the place where I live, and I will say for this, so Paris Charles de Gaulle, and then you can click on the map and it will kind of start giving you dollar amounts. So typically, in order to get the best bargain flight, I'm recording this video at the end of December. If this was a real thing and I was really planning to go to France, I would want to be buying tickets already for like April or May or even June. So I wouldn't want to wait until the end of December for anything that's any closer than April. So in other words, if I was going to go before April, I should have already bought my ticket. So let's see here. So let's take a look at May, which is when prices a lot of times can be cheaper. So you can see right here, they're actually really coming up expensive right there. So let's actually see, June's even more expensive, July. So you can sometimes even go so even if I go like to September, see, everything's kind of just coming up really expensive right now. So what I would do though is, let's say I wanted to go in May. Typically you're going to have the best bet if you stay for about 10 days. Quite frankly, you probably don't want to go to France for less than that. So what you could do is, the last time I went, I left on a Monday and came home the following Thursday, and that was partly how I found my bargain flight. So it looks right now, let's see, based on the prices, it's a tad bit cheaper if you leave like on a Thursday. Let's see. So if we do like Thursday and come home on, let's try Thursday, 2 weeks. So you click done right there, and it will give you the different flights. You can see this is the non-stop. So at this point in time, the non-stop is actually even a little bit cheaper than stopping in Dallas-Fort Worth, which is where I went last time. Stopped in Dallas-Fort Worth. Now, if you happen to be one of the lucky ones who live, say, really close to like Chicago O'Hare or Dallas or New York, JFK, or one of those major international airports that has a lot more non-stop flights, then you're even luckier, because you probably will find even cheaper flights than, say, what I found coming from Salt Lake City. And then what I would do on this is I would go ahead and track it. So you can tap this over here and track it, and then they will email you as the prices go down or up or that kind of thing for those particular dates. And typically what I find is, suppose I were to get an email alert for these dates that were telling me, hey, prices have dropped down to about $600 or $700 or whatever, typically means that I don't necessarily have to choose these exact dates, but it means that flights around that date have probably changed, so that I can come in here and I can change, say, something like that, or, like this. So I can just kind of play around, see what happens. Then once I find a notice, so like I said, this is really expensive. I would not pay that to go to France right now. I believe that flight is going to drop at least. It says prices are currently typical. I don't believe that. I believe the prices are going to come down quite a bit based on what I paid the last time when I just went a few months ago, and the prices that I've seen other people that I know that have gone. So I would wait on this, and then once you see a price that you like, then what I do is I will go directly through the airline website and book it. So the other idea that you also can consider for cheaper flights is, if you can consider doing kind of a two-leg type thing, or involving some of the other airlines. So for example, JetBlue and Southwest, which are actually not included in the search typically, although they may come up a little bit farther as being a little more expensive. But for example, so say I wanted to try Boston to Paris. See how this is really inexpensive. There's, Boston to Paris right now has for this particular date has a flight for only $387, I could also do like Salt Lake City to Boston and see how it's only $247. So if you can make the timing work there, you could buy 2 separate tickets. You could buy one from Salt Lake City to Boston, then one from Boston to Paris. Now, you did notice if I go back here and look at the Boston to Paris, in this case, that the non-stop, you know, you have to pay a little more, $600, but again, if we go back here and you go to Boston, it's, you know, I can get there for less than $300. So combined, that's like $900 instead of like the $1,200 or $1,300 that was showing up. And you have to kind of just play around and see how things work. In this particular case, like I said, that's still pretty pricey, but there may be some circumstances, especially if you are trying to go to France during the summer months, or if for whatever reason you haven't been able to book your flight 5 or 6 months ahead, or you just, for whatever reason, can't find the kind of price you want, where it might make sense for you to do something like that. So that's just, you know, that's just an example. And like I said, if you're lucky enough to actually live near a, like, suppose you live near Chicago O'Hare and are going to, like, France. See, the tickets right now, you can go, there's one, there, you still have to stop, but it's only $400 from there. And so this would be like another example if maybe I wanted to fly from Salt Lake City to Chicago O'Hare. See, it would still, the combination there, and that's a non-stop, so I'd still have a stop because I'd have to go to Chicago and then, you know, so I might have 2 different stops even. But it's only $337, and so, you know, that would, 700-ish, so that would definitely make it a lot less expensive. So anyhow, the gist of it is that once I find these, I typically am not going to actually book directly here. What I'm going to do is I'm, like I said, just going to go straight to the airline. So then, of course, the other thing you can do is you can use some of these other searches, like Expedia is a really common one that will search. So if I wanted to do flights, and of course I want round trip, and I can't fly directly to Rouen, I have to fly to Paris. And the downfall to this is that it doesn't really give you the prices before you start clicking on the dates. So basically, let's just pick one, and then on a returning, pick about 8 or 9 days later, then just start searching. I'm not going to buy right now, so. Then, personally, I don't recommend buying flights directly from Expedia because I have seen there be a lot of problems with cancellations, with things not being accepted, all that kind of thing. And so, you know, you could try and see, even here, the prices here, for some reason, are a little bit lower, which means that you can use this as a search engine to figure things out. The other thing you also can do is to research different bloggers, Instagram posters, things like that. So for example, this is an Instagram account that a lady who lives here locally in Salt Lake City has, and she runs even like a special promo website, membership website. Oh, and it says, so if you're not in Salt Lake, website for more cities. So she does things where she posts special deals. So here it is, like if you want to go Valencia, Spain, there's an special on United Airlines during February, March, October, and November. Seville, Spain. So, and I've seen ones pop up on here for Paris before. So she's got, you know, all different deals that she posts, and you can follow along here and see. I can't believe I'm not following her. Now I am. the different things. And then you could also even go to our website and check it out. And like I said, there are other places and bloggers and Instagrammers and travel agents and things like that that can help you out. So anyhow, those are just some tips on how I try to find flights. In general, it's going to depend obviously on what city you're coming from and whether or not you want to do a nonstop or still have to stop somewhere, what time of day, how many days you're going. All those factors will all play into what you're able to get. But in general, my personal experience has been that if you are flying from most, not necessarily all, but from most cities in the country at this point in time, unless you're going on peak season, so that would be June, July, August, and then December around Christmas. If you're going in any other month of the year, you should be able to find a flight for less than $600 round trip to Paris. And if you can't, it means you probably need to keep looking a little bit more. And maybe you're too far out, or you're too soon, or you're just being a little bit picky about the cities that you're traveling through, the time of day, that kind of thing, because it can be done. In fact, the last flight I got, I only paid $490, so I know that it can be done, and I went in October. So, in October, I've been told, is actually one of the best times to go, as far as pricing and things like that go. But I have found those deals during, like September and May, or even in the middle of winter and stuff like that, too. So anyhow, just wanted to give you these tips on how to find cheap flights to France. Hope you found this helpful. And as always, you can fill out the contact form and schedule time to talk with me if you want to learn more.